Our internal affairs division arrested one of our deputies, one of our own, Justin Lee. He's a 3-year deputy here at the Mark County Sheriff's Office.
Everyone's obsessed with stories of double agents, but this real-life story is much worse. Sheriff Daniel Calderon posed for photos with kids and shook hands with voters while hiding bricks of cash in his desk. For starters, nobody ever thought the sheriff's office was actually a cartel hub.
We're the DEA. We're not going after low-level retail drug traffickers. We are going after drug trafficking organizations, the network.
After a multi-city bust, the truth about 324 guns and tons of substances finally came out. I'm not gonna lie, the scale of this corruption is terrifying. It turns out the Protector was actually the biggest predator in the county, and that's putting it lightly. Office secrets found. The morning air in the Florida Sheriff's Office felt like any other day until the tactical vests appeared in the hallway. The fluorescent lights hummed while deputies finished their morning coffee, completely unaware that their boss was about to be led away in chains. Sheriff Daniel R. Calderon had spent years building a reputation as a tough-on-crime leader who loved his community. He shook hands at every event and made sure he was seen as a hero. However, the FBI had been quietly watching him for over 2 years, waiting for the perfect moment to move in. When the handcuffs finally clicked shut, the silence in the room was heavier than any shout could have been. Agents didn't just stop at the arrest, they went straight for the private office where the real secrets were kept. Behind the framed awards and service records that lined the walls, they found a nightmare. There were vacuum-sealed packages of fentanyl and meth wrapped tight in plastic. Bundles of cash were stacked like bricks, held together by simple rubber bands. The most shocking part was the fine white powder dusted across the very desk where citizens came to ask for help. It was clear that the man sworn to destroy this poison had been consumed by it instead. This wasn't just a case of a few bribes, it was a total transformation of a public office into a criminal headquarters. The investigation showed that Calderon wasn't working alone in his dark new business. He was just one part of a machine designed to move cartel products directly into local neighborhoods. The FBI found that the sheriff and his team were getting paid in an organized way, receiving between $600,000 and $700,000 over several months. These weren't random gifts, they were like a regular salary for helping the cartel. This betrayal turned the symbols of safety into weapons against the people living in the county. Patrol cars that should have been chasing bad guys were instead used to escort substance shipments across state lines. People in the community felt a deep sense of shock as the details of the arrest went public. They remembered the sheriff as a man who cared about their families, but the evidence showed a different person entirely. The Internal Affairs Division even arrested a deputy named Justin Lee for tampering with evidence and lying to investigators. It turns out the corruption had spread through the hallways like a sickness. Every hand the sheriff shook and every photo he took was part of a giant lie. The badges that were supposed to represent duty now only represented access for the highest bidder. As agents carried out the boxes of evidence, they realized the scale was much larger than one man. This was a deep network of dishonesty that included police chiefs and patrol officers from different areas. 14 current or former law enforcement members were eventually caught in the net. They had sold out their neighbors for piles of cash and a sense of power. The FBI made it clear that they would not tolerate this kind of shameful abuse of office. The swamp of government corruption was finally being drained, but the damage to the public trust was already done. Evidence from the sheriff's personal devices showed he tried to wipe everything clean before the agents arrived. He knew the end was coming and tried to hide his previous knowledge of the crimes, but the technology experts found the deleted files and the hidden messages anyway. These records showed exactly how the substance trafficking was helped by the very people paid to stop it. The badge no longer meant safety. It had become armor for the transport teams working for the cartel. This was just the start of a much bigger story that would shake the entire region. Something even more suspicious was happening right inside the sheriff's own home. Money moves quietly. While the sheriff was busy running the county, his wife Emily was playing a major role in keeping the money safe. To the people living next door, she was just a polite woman who attended local events and waved from her driveway. She seemed ordinary and soft-spoken, but her bank accounts told a much different story. Financial investigators looked into a cleaning company she owned and found something very strange. The company had no contracts, no bills sent to customers, and no actual employees doing any work. Yet every single month, tens of thousands of dollars moved through the business accounts like clockwork. This was a classic case of money laundering done with cold accuracy. The cartel cash was being funneled through the fake cleaning business to make it look like legal income. Emily Calderon didn't act surprised when the agents finally knocked on her door to arrest her. She knew exactly why they were there because she had been part of the plan from the beginning. This showed that the corruption wasn't just a professional choice for the sheriff, it was a family business. They were building a life of luxury using the money made from the substances that were hurting other families in their own town. As investigators pulled on this one thread, the whole fabric of local law enforcement began to fall apart. They found that the money wasn't just staying with the Calderons, it was being used to pay off other officers to keep them quiet or to get them to help with shipments. The organized way the money moved showed that they had a system in place that had been working for a long time. They weren't just taking bribes, they were managing a regional branch of a cartel empire. The fake cleaning company was just the tip of the iceberg in a sea of dirty money. The scale of the cash flow was staggering for a small-town operation. Investigators traced $42 million through various shell companies and fake businesses. This money was used to buy expensive cars, hidden properties, and to fund a lifestyle that no sheriff's salary could ever provide. The community was left wondering how much of their tax money was also being wasted while this was happening. It was a complete betrayal of the trust that voters put in the sheriff's office every election cycle. The hero sheriff was nothing more than a paid worker for the people bringing poison into the streets. Every time a shipment moved through the county, the sheriff or his deputies would get a cut. They used police radios to fake emergencies so they could clear the highways for the cartel trucks. This made the transport process easy and safe for the criminals. If a local officer who wasn't in on the deal tried to pull over a suspicious vehicle, the sheriff would step in to stop the investigation. They used the power of the law to make sure the law was never followed. This created a perfect environment for the cartel to grow its influence. The investigators also found that the network reached into other states, showing how big the machine had become. This wasn't just a Florida problem, it was a regional disaster that required federal help to fix. The FBI used secret recordings and undercover agents to map out every person involved in the cash transfers. They watched as bags of money were swapped in back rooms and at midnight meetings. The evidence was building up every day, and it was only a matter of time before the whole thing came crashing down. But the most dangerous part of the empire was hidden inside a group of local businesses. Gaming system rigged. The sun came up over Florida as hundreds of federal agents moved into their positions for Operation Crosscut. This wasn't just about one office anymore. It was a coordinated strike to take down an entire gambling empire. In the city of Ocala, unmarked vans surrounded what looked like a normal internet cafe. Inside, the neon lights were flickering and the sounds of games filled the air. When the order came to move, agents used sledgehammers to break through the steel doors. This was happening at dozens of locations all across the state at the exact same time to make sure no one could escape. These internet cafes were actually illegal casinos hiding in plain sight. They operated under names like Allied Veterans of the World, claiming they were raising money to help struggling veterans. In reality, the IRS found that the fundraising centers were just places for illegal gambling and money laundering. Very little of the money ever reached a veteran. Instead, it went into the pockets of the people running the scam. Agents seized slot machines and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash during the raids. This was the accounting center for the empire the sheriff was helping to protect. Inside one office building in Kissimmee, agents found something that made their skin crawl. They discovered 324 firearms, and many of them had been modified to be even more dangerous. Along with the guns, they found 2.3 tons of illegal items, including enough fentanyl to destroy thousands of lives. But the most chilling discovery was a simple handwritten list taped under a desk drawer. The list had names of county sheriffs from all over the region. Next to each name was a mark that said safe, unsafe, or hours. This proved that the cartel was keeping track of who they could buy. This list showed that the problem wasn't just a few bad apples, it was a systematic invasion of the police force. The cartel had been ranking the law enforcement leaders based on how easy they were to corrupt. Sheriff Calderon was definitely marked as ours. This meant the criminals felt they owned the people who were supposed to be stopping them. It was a terrifying look at how much power the cartel had gained over the local government. They weren't just breaking the law, they were rewrite it to suit their own needs. The raids across the state led to 126 arrests in Florida alone. Dealers were caught with cash still in their hands, and some tried to run, but were quickly stopped by K-9 units. The entire operation was designed to dismantle the empire in a matter of minutes. Agents took computers, financial records, and even more weapons from the 51 cafes they searched. This was a massive blow to the cartel's ability to move money through the state. The safe list was now in the hands of the FBI, and everyone on it was in big trouble. The software for the illegal games was being provided by a man in Oklahoma, showing that the network was spread across the country. They were using the internet to hide their tracks, but the federal investigators were smarter. They tracked the digital footprint of the money and the software until they had the whole picture. The friendly names of the charities were just a mask for a very dark business. The veterans they claimed to help were just tools used to gain the public's sympathy while the owners got rich. The investigation was now moving toward the most dangerous part of the entire pipeline. Border gates open. While Florida grappled with local law enforcement scandals, a parallel betrayal unfolded at the southern border. In El Paso, Officer Manuel Perez Jr. used simple hand signals to wave cartel vehicles laden with substances and migrants past inspections without scrutiny. Similarly, in San Ysidro, veteran officer Leonard Darnell George accepted over $400,000 to facilitate smuggling, eventually receiving a 23-year prison sentence. These gatekeepers effectively became key holders for criminal organizations, proving that years of service offer no immunity against a high enough price. This corruption created a seamless pipeline from Mexico to American neighborhoods. By targeting financially vulnerable officers, cartels systematically dismantled national security from within. The arrest revealed a rigged game. While fentanyl deaths surged across the country, those sworn to protect the public were growing wealthy by clearing the path for the poison. The resulting multi-state crackdown was immense, yielding 146 arrests, including 2 sheriffs, and the seizure of tons of narcotics and $42 million in laundered funds. However, the data hides a deeper tragedy: the total collapse of public trust. In communities like Sheriff Calderon's, protection has been replaced by suspicion. When the enforcers of the law become its primary violators, the system becomes hollow, and citizens are left wondering which uniforms are actually on a cartel payroll. Recovery requires more than just prison sentences. It necessitates a fundamental rebuilding of institutional integrity. New leaders are now implementing strict oversight and anti-lobbying laws to insulate offices from future infiltration. While the justice system aims to make the price of corruption prohibitively high, the lure of cartel money ensures that the struggle to keep the gatekeepers honest remains a constant, predatory battle. If the people hired to protect us are actually working for the cartels, can we ever truly feel safe in our own towns again? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.